When 72-year-old Benjamin discovered his late wife's precious necklace missing, he never expected to find his daughter flaunting it on social media from Hawaii. But the real shock came when the jewelry store owner called with a message that would change everything. "Your wife told me this might happen." When I found my dead wife's jewelry box empty at 7:30 Tuesday morning, the last thing I expected was to see my daughter wearing those same pearls on Instagram an hour later, sitting at some fancy Hawaiian restaurant with a champagne glass in her hand. I'm Benjamin Clark, 72 years old, and I've been around long enough to know when someone's playing me for a fool. But when it's your own daughter doing the playing, well, that hits different. Let me back up a minute. Dorothy, my wife of 45 years, passed 3 years ago from cancer. Aggressive kind that took her fast. Before she went, she made me promise to keep her jewelry box exactly where she left it on the bedroom dresser. Said it would help me feel close to her. What she didn't tell me was why she really wanted me to check it every Sunday morning. I run my finger along that velvet box every week after church, usually around the same time I have my coffee, and read Dorothy's old letters. Call it routine, call it grief, doesn't matter. Point is, I know exactly what's supposed to be in there. Dorothy's pearl necklace was the centerpiece. Cost me 6 months of overtime at the auto shop back in 1985 to buy it for our 25th anniversary. Real South Sea pearls, worth about $15,000 according to the last insurance appraisal. But the money wasn't what made my hands shake when I saw that empty box. It was what those pearls meant. Dorothy wore them to everything important. Nathan's engineering graduation, Amanda's wedding, every Christmas dinner for 20 years. Now they were gone. I stood there in our bedroom, still in my work clothes from the garage where I still tinker around most mornings. At 72, I'm not fixing engines for money anymore, but these old hands need something to do. The muscle memory of 40 years running Clark's Auto Repair doesn't just disappear because you retire. My first thought was, maybe I'd moved the necklace somewhere safe and forgotten. When you're pushing 72, you start questioning your own memory. But I knew better. I put it back in that exact spot every single Sunday for 3 years running. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Instagram notification. I barely used the thing, but my son Nathan set it up so I could see pictures of his kids out in Dallas. This notification wasn't from Nathan, though. Living_my_best_life_Amanda. That's what my 38-year-old daughter calls herself online. The picture loaded slowly on my old phone, and there she was. Amanda sitting at some upscale restaurant with crystal blue water behind her. Had to be Hawaii from the looks of it. She was wearing a white sundress, holding a champagne flute, with her husband Tyler's arm around her waist. Both of them grinning like they'd hit the lottery. The caption read, "Sometimes you gotta sell the past to buy the future. Living our dreams in Maui, #blessed, #no regrets, #new beginnings." I zoomed in with fingers that suddenly felt clumsy. There, on the table next to her champagne, was a receipt. I could just make out Southwest Jewelry Exchange at the top and the amount $15,500. My workshop stool caught me as my legs went weak. This wasn't some misunderstanding. My daughter had stolen her mother's jewelry and was bragging about it online. I've been around the block enough times to know trouble when I see it. Amanda and Tyler had been struggling since he got laid off from the insurance company 14 months back. Amanda's real estate career never quite took off either. Too many agents chasing the same small-town clients. But stealing from family? From her own father? That was a line I never thought any child of mine would cross. My workshop phone rang. Local number I recognized. "Benjamin, this is Kevin Martinez from Southwest Jewelry Exchange." Kevin and I go way back to the VFW. Good man, honest businessman, served 2 tours in Vietnam. We'd shared enough beers talking about the old days that I trusted him with my life. Kevin, please tell me you didn't buy Dorothy's pearls from my daughter this morning. That's exactly why I'm calling, buddy. You need to get down here right now. There's something your wife set up before she passed. Something you need to know about. What are you talking about? Can't explain over the phone, Benjamin. Just trust me. Drop everything and come down to the shop. It's about Dorothy and Amanda and a promise I made 4 years ago. The line went dead. I stood in my garage workshop looking at the tools I'd been organizing. The same Craftsman wrenches I'd used for decades. The hydraulic lift where I'd taught both my kids how to change oil when they were teenagers. This garage had been my sanctuary for 40 years. A place where problems had solutions. Where broken things could be fixed with patience and the right tools. But this felt like something no amount of mechanical know-how could repair. I grabbed my keys off the pegboard, where Dorothy used to hang her garden gloves, and headed for my truck. Whatever Kevin had to tell me about my wife's last wishes, I had a feeling my quiet retirement was about to get a whole lot more complicated. The 15-minute drive to downtown felt like an hour. Southwest Jewelry Exchange sits on Main Street between Murphy's Hardware and the old diner where Dorothy and I used to eat breakfast every Saturday morning. Kevin took over the business from his father-in-law 15 years ago, right after he got back from his second deployment. Good business for a veteran. Dealing in gold, silver, and precious stones requires the kind of attention to detail the military teaches you. I parked my F-150 in the loading zone, not caring about a ticket. Through the window, I could see Kevin moving around behind the counter, his face grim. The bells above the door chimed as I walked in. Benjamin. Kevin came around the counter and pulled me into one of those quick, firm hugs veterans give each other. I'm sorry, brother. This is going to be tough. Where are Dorothy's pearls? Kevin walked to the safe behind the counter, punched in a combination, and pulled out a familiar black velvet case. He set it on the counter between us. How? I asked, staring at the case I'd seen empty just 2 hours ago. Your wife came to see me 4 years ago, about 6 months after her diagnosis. Sat right where you're standing and told me she was worried. Not about dying. Dorothy made her peace with that quick enough. She was worried about what might happen to you after she was gone. Kevin opened the case. The pearls lay there exactly as I remembered them, catching the overhead lights like tiny moons. She paid me $20,000 in cash, Benjamin. Made me promise that if anyone except you, tried to sell this necklace, I'd buy it, immediately at full market value and call you. No questions asked. My throat felt tight. She knew Amanda would steal it. She suspected. Said she'd overheard some conversations between Amanda and Tyler about money troubles, about how much your house might be worth, about what would happen when you got too old to manage things yourself. Kevin's voice carried that edge it got when he talked about people who betrayed trust. He reached under the counter and pulled out a manila envelope, worn at the edges. She left this for you. My name was written across the front in Dorothy's careful handwriting. Inside was a letter and a small brass key taped to the bottom of the page. My dearest Benjamin, the letter began. If you're reading this, then my worst fears have come true. I'm sorry I had to keep this from you, but I couldn't break your heart while I was still there to see it happen. I had to sit down. Kevin brought me a chair. 3 months ago, I was in the kitchen making dinner when I heard Amanda and Tyler in the living room. They thought I was taking a nap. They were talking about our finances, about how much the house and shop might be worth, about putting you in the most economical facility we can find when the time comes. My hands were shaking as I continued reading. I wanted to confront them, Benjamin. God knows I wanted to march in there and give them a piece of my mind. But you love Amanda so much, and she's struggling. And I thought maybe I heard wrong. So I decided to watch and wait. The key opened safety deposit box 247 at First National Bank. What I found there will break your heart, but it will also protect you. I love you. Stay strong. Dorothy. Kevin was watching me carefully. Benjamin, there's more. Amanda was here this morning with Tyler. She told me you'd been getting forgetful, that you wouldn't even notice the necklace was gone for months. Said it was better this way, that you needed the money for your care anyway. The words hit like a punch to the gut. What else did she say? Tyler looked sick the whole time, kept checking his phone, sweating, watching the door. Amanda did all the talking. She also asked me about getting the house appraised, said she might need to sell it soon to pay for your medical expenses. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. Kevin, I need to ask you something man to man. In your opinion, do I seem like someone who can't take care of himself? Kevin's laugh was short and bitter. Benjamin, you rebuilt the transmission on my Chevy last month. You organize the VFW barbecue every year. You remember every guy's service record and their kids' names. If you're losing your mind, then I'm ready for the nursing home too. That's what I thought. I stood up and shook Kevin's hand. Thank you for keeping your promise to Dorothy. What do I owe you for buying back the necklace? Not a damn thing. Dorothy already paid for it 4 years ago. Kevin handed me the velvet case. But Benjamin, you need to be careful. If Amanda's willing to steal from you and lie about your mental state, this is just the beginning. People who'll cross that line don't usually stop there. I drove straight to First National Bank. The safety deposit box was in the basement vault, in a room that smelled like old metal and secrets. The bank manager, a young woman named Sarah who remembered Dorothy from her volunteer work at the library, led me down and left me alone with box 247. Inside were 3 things that changed everything. A stack of SD cards labeled with dates going back 2 years, a digital audio recorder, and a note in Dorothy's handwriting that said, "Check behind the tool cabinet in your workshop. I'm sorry I had to spy, but I had to know." I drove home with those SD cards burning a hole in my pocket. In my workshop, I moved the big red Craftsman tool cabinet I'd had for 30 years. Behind it was a small hole in the drywall covered by a piece of wood. Inside were tiny, wireless cameras, the kind you can buy online for home security. I spent the next 4 hours at my workbench, watching 2 years of my life unfold on my laptop screen. Dorothy had installed cameras in our living room, kitchen, and right here in my workshop office where I kept the business books. The earliest recording was from September, 6 months after Dorothy's funeral. Amanda and Tyler, sitting on our couch while I was at the VFW for the monthly meeting. Dad's sitting on at least $450,000 between the house and what's left of the shop, Amanda was saying, plus whatever Mom left him in savings. Amanda, we can't just take his money. We're not taking it, Tyler. We're managing it. Dad's 72 years old. How much longer can he really handle maintaining this big house and workshop by himself? He seems fine to me. You don't see him every day like I do. Trust me, he's slipping. Yesterday he asked me about your job search, then later asked if you'd found work yet. That's the same question. Twice. I remembered that conversation perfectly. I'd asked about the search in the morning, then in the evening asked if he'd had any interviews. 2 completely different questions. But Amanda was already building her narrative. I kept watching. Video after video of my daughter constructing a case against my competency like she was building a legal brief. This wasn't desperation. This was premeditation. I watched 6 more hours of footage that night, sitting at my workbench with a cold cup of coffee and a growing sense of betrayal that cut deeper than any physical pain I'd ever felt. Dorothy had captured everything. Phone calls, private conversations, planning sessions. My daughter had been building a case against my competency like she was preparing for war. The worst part was how methodical she'd been about it. In a video from last March, Amanda was on the phone with someone called Dr. Michelle Wilson. I'd never heard that name before in my life. Dr. Wilson, this is Amanda Clark. We discussed my father's situation last month. Amanda was pacing our kitchen while I was supposedly napping upstairs. I need you to understand how urgent this is becoming. Dad's episodes are getting worse. Episodes? What episodes? I work in my shop every morning, play poker with the VFW guys twice a week, and maintain this house better than men half my age. Yesterday he forgot he'd already paid the electric bill and tried to pay it again, Amanda continued. Last week he called me at midnight asking where my mother was. He's clearly experiencing significant cognitive decline. Every word was a lie. I pay all my bills online, automatically, same as I have for 10 years, and I never called Amanda at midnight about anything. The woman was fabricating entire conversations. The doctor's voice was fuzzy through the phone, but I caught enough to understand she was writing up some kind of evaluation without ever meeting me. Amanda was paying her to declare me incompetent based on second-hand stories that weren't even true. I fast-forwarded to another video from May, Tyler and Amanda in my living room, thinking I was at the hardware store. Pleasant Valley Extended Care is perfect, Amanda was saying, reading from what looked like a brochure. It's only $2,100 a month. Dad won't know the difference anyway once the dementia progresses. Pleasant Valley. I'd driven past that place delivering parts years ago. Half the windows were boarded up. The parking lot was full of potholes, and I'd seen residents sitting alone in wheelchairs staring at nothing. That's where my daughter wanted to warehouse me while she sold everything I'd worked 40 years to build. Are you sure about this, Amanda? Tyler looked sick. Your dad seems pretty sharp to me. And what about Nathan? He's going to ask questions. Nathan lives 1,200 miles away in Dallas. By the time he figures out what's happening, it'll be too late. Besides, he's got his own family to worry about. He's not going to fight us on this. Wrong on all counts. Nathan might live in Texas, but he calls me twice a week and visits every few months. And if there's one thing I knew about my older son, it's that he'd fight anyone who tried to hurt family. What if your dad doesn't cooperate? Tyler asked. Amanda's laugh was cold. Tyler, once Dr. Wilson files her evaluation and we get temporary guardianship, Dad won't have a choice. We'll have legal authority to make all his decisions. He can complain all he wants from Pleasant Valley. I had to stop the video and walk outside to my workshop yard. The night air was cool, filled with the sound of crickets and the distant hum of traffic. I'd lived in this house for 35 years, built my business from nothing, raised 2 kids, buried the love of my life in the backyard garden she'd tended for decades, and my daughter wanted to throw it all away for money. When I went back inside, there was one more video I had to see. This one was from 2 weeks ago. Amanda sitting at my kitchen table with a man in a cheap suit. Mr. Clark's condition has deteriorated significantly, Amanda was telling him. The medical evaluation confirms early-stage dementia with paranoid episodes. His family is concerned for his safety. The man, presumably a lawyer, was taking notes. And you're requesting full guardianship? Temporary at first, then permanent once the court reviews the documentation. We need to act quickly before he hurts himself or makes any major financial decisions. What about other family members? Any opposition expected? My brother lives out of state and rarely visits. He'll probably be relieved someone's taking responsibility for Dad's care. Another lie. Nathan was planning to visit next month for my birthday, same as every year. I'd seen enough. At 11:30 p.m., I called the number Dorothy had written on the back of the envelope. Rachel Thompson, attorney at law. Mr. Clark, her voice was alert despite the late hour. I've been expecting your call for 4 years. You know about all this? Dorothy hired me in 2020 to set up protective measures. She showed me the early surveillance footage and explained her concerns. Everything you own is in an irrevocable living trust, Benjamin. Even if a court declares you incompetent, Amanda can't touch your house, your shop, or your savings. Relief flooded through me like cool water. So she can't steal everything? She can't take your assets, but she can still make your life miserable. If she gets guardianship, she could force you into that nursing home and control every aspect of your daily life while fighting the trust in court. That's why Dorothy left you all that evidence. We need to stop Amanda before she files those papers. What do you suggest? We set a trap. Invite her and Tyler for dinner this Sunday. I'll be waiting outside with Officer Nicole Garcia from the Elder Abuse Unit. We'll have warrants ready and enough evidence to bury them both. But Benjamin, once we do this, there's no going back. Amanda will likely go to prison. I thought about the daughter who used to help me change oil in the shop when she was 12, who'd cried at her mother's funeral, who'd promised to look after me when Dorothy was gone. Then I thought about Pleasant Valley and the fake doctor's evaluation and 2 years of calculated lies. She made her choice, Rachel. Now I'm making mine. Sunday at 6 p.m. then. And Benjamin? Your wife was a smart woman. She protected you better than you know. After I hung up, I sat in my workshop until dawn, surrounded by the tools and memories of a lifetime. Dorothy's plan was brilliant, thorough, and born from love. Even dying, she'd found a way to protect me from our own child. Sunday couldn't come fast enough. Sunday dinner at the Clark house used to be a tradition Dorothy started when the kids were small. Every week, the whole family around our oak dining table, sharing food and stories about the week. I'd cooked pot roast, cornbread, and green beans, Amanda's childhood favorites. If this was going to be our last family meal, it ought to be a proper one. Amanda and Tyler arrived at exactly 6 p.m., which didn't surprise me. Amanda had always been punctual, even as a kid. She brought grocery store flowers and that bright smile she'd perfected over the years. Dad, you look wonderful. She hugged me, and for a moment I almost forgot about the lies and the stolen necklace and the nursing home brochures. Almost. Thanks for cooking, Mr. Clark, Tyler said. He looked nervous, kept checking his phone and glancing toward the windows. He knew something was wrong, but couldn't put his finger on what. We made small talk for the first 10 minutes. Amanda complimented the pot roast, asked about my workshop projects, mentioned how nice the house looked. Normal family conversation, if you didn't know what I knew. Dad, Amanda finally said, setting down her sweet tea. Tyler and I have been talking, and we're concerned about you living alone in this big house. Here we go. I'm managing fine, sweetheart. Are you, though? Last month you forgot to pay the electric bill, and there was that incident where you called me in the middle of the night confused about where Mom was. I'd prepared for this. Amanda, I pay all my bills automatically online, have for 10 years, and I've never called you in the middle of the night about your mother. Her smile flickered. Dad, memory issues are nothing to be ashamed of. Tyler and I found this wonderful assisted living community called Pleasant Valley. It's got everything: activities, medical care, people your own age to socialize with. Pleasant Valley. I stood up and walked to the TV. You mean that place with the boarded-up windows and the potholes in the parking lot? Dad, I think you're confusing it with somewhere else. I turned on the television. Let me show you something that might clear up the confusion. The surveillance footage began playing. Amanda and Tyler on our couch 18 months ago, discussing my supposed mental decline and their plans for my money. Amanda's face went white. Dad, where did you get that? Your mother installed security cameras before she died. She knew what you were planning, Amanda. On screen, Amanda's voice filled the room. Dad's sitting on at least $450,000. We need to move before he makes any major financial decisions. Tyler put his head in his hands. Amanda shot to her feet. You can't record people without their permission. It's my house, Amanda. Your mother was protecting me from my own daughter. I played another clip. Amanda's phone call with Dr. Wilson, fabricating stories about midnight confusion and unpaid bills. "Dad, please, let me explain." The front door opened. Rachel Thompson walked in wearing her best courtroom suit, followed by Officer Nicole Garcia in full uniform. "Amanda Clark, Tyler Johnson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud, and attempted theft." "This is a setup," Amanda screamed. "Dad, how could you do this to your own family?" Tyler stood up slowly. "Officer, I want to cooperate. I have recordings of every conversation Amanda and I had about this plan. She initiated everything. I never wanted any part of it." Amanda spun toward her husband. "Tyler, what are you doing? We're supposed to stick together." "No, Amanda. We were supposed to take care of your father, not rob him blind." Tyler looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Mr. Clark, I'm sorry. I should have stopped this months ago." Officer Garcia read Amanda her rights, while Tyler provided a detailed confession right there in our dining room. As they led Amanda away in handcuffs, she looked back at me one last time. "Dad, I'm sorry. We were just so desperate." "I know, sweetheart. But desperation doesn't justify betrayal." The trial took 3 months. Tyler's testimony and recordings, combined with Dorothy's surveillance footage, made it an open and shut case. Dr. Wilson lost her medical license and got 2 years probation for writing fraudulent evaluations. Tyler received 18 months with parole for cooperation. Amanda got 3 years in state prison plus restitution of $18,500. Nathan flew in from Dallas and stayed for the entire trial. My good son, my steady son, who never once looked at me like a paycheck waiting to happen. "Dad, I'm sorry I didn't see what Amanda was doing." "Son, you were building your own life 1,200 miles away. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Besides, your mother saw it for both of us." The VFW guys rallied around me during the trial. Kevin organized meals, Jerry Martinez drove me to court appointments, and Bill Thompson sat with me every day in the gallery. That's what brothers do. They show up when it matters. 6 months after Amanda went to prison, I received my first letter from her. I didn't respond immediately, but I didn't throw it away either. She's got 2 more years to figure out who she wants to be when she gets out. Nathan suggested I sell the house and move closer to him in Dallas. But this is home. Dorothy's garden, my workshop, 35 years of memories. Besides, I've got work to do here. I converted part of my shop into the Dorothy Clark Community Education Center, where teenagers learn basic auto repair and financial literacy. Dorothy always said knowledge was the best inheritance you could leave someone. Now kids from all over town come by after school to learn how to change their oil, balance a checkbook, and understand the difference between wants and needs. The pearl necklace sits in its velvet box on Dorothy's dresser, same as always. Every Sunday morning, I look at it and remember the woman who loved me enough to protect me even after she was gone. People ask if I'm angry at Amanda. Mostly, I'm just sad. Sad that she chose money over family, that she was willing to put her father in a place like Pleasant Valley, that she thought so little of the man who raised her. But I'm not broken. Dorothy made sure of that. She gave me the tools to protect myself and the wisdom to know when to use them, the kind that lasts forever. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we need to protect ourselves from, not because we don't love them, but because we love ourselves enough to preserve what we've built. The greatest gift you can give your family isn't blind trust. It's teaching them that respect and accountability go hand in hand, even when it hurts.